Hello again, everyone. I'm Joe Longinusa, welcoming you to another edition of Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where industry leaders, golf professionals, and legends all come and discuss the great game we love so much. So without further ado, let's turn it over to our host to tell us who's next on the tee. Chris, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining me again on Next on the Tee. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and this morning I have three great guests to share with you. It's going to be such a wonderful show. First up is going to be Dave Harner. Dave is the director of golf at one of the most fantastic golf venues anywhere on the planet, and that's the French Lick Resort. If you're not familiar with it, do yourself a favor. Go to FrenchLick.com to check it out. I'm telling you, when you see the pictures of this golf course, and they've got three fantastic ones there, when you look at the golf course layout, they're going to bring a smile to your face. You're going to think, I got to play there, because I'll tell you what, a year ago I was blessed to have Dave on the show, and I started to do the research on the French Lick Resort at that time, and it's certainly been on my bucket list ever since. So check it out. Again, go to FrenchLick.com, and we'll talk to Dave here in just a few moments. The Pete Dye course there is the site of this year's Senior PGA Championship. Plus, later in the year, they'll be hosting for the third time the LPGA Legends Tournament. So we'll talk about all of that and more when Dave joins me here in just a moment. Following Dave, our good friend and Sports One Marketing CEO David Meltzer will be back with us. It's always such a privilege to get to talk with David. We're going to get his thoughts this morning on the WGC Match Play Championship, plus get an update on all the things that he's working on in conjunction with his partner, Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon at Sports One Marketing when he joins me about 20 minutes from now. And then I get to wrap up the show talking with one of my all-time favorite guests, Paul Stankowski. For those of you who are regular listeners of this show, you know Paul is one of the guys in my dream fivesome, and I say fivesome because in any group that I would put together, I would certainly include my father. So getting to have Paul along with Bob Friend Jr. and Eric Johnson, those are the guys in my dream fivesome. I'll talk with Paul about his experiences and memories of playing in the Masters, plus the Players Championship. We're sort of sandwiched in between those two events. We'll talk about that with him, plus get an update on what his company, Francis Edwards, is doing when he joins me about a half an hour from now. So it's going to be a great show. I'm so glad that you're here to take the journey with me over the next hour. Next on the Tee is brought to you today by Seymour Putters. Let's hear a word about our friends over at Seymour Putters.
Golfers, has this happened to you? Great drive, perfect second shot on the green, only to 3 or even 4 putt, shaking your head all the way back to the cart. I have good news. Help is on the way with the Seymour Putter. The Seymour Putter Company, patented RST technology, sets up the putter perfectly every time, using a visible gun sight on the top line. Genius. It's like locking radar onto the target, in this case, the golf hole, putting the golfer in perfect position to make a reliable and consistent stroke. The 1999 U.S. Open and 2007 Masters champions both use, you guessed it, the Seymour Putter. So if you're ready to make more putts and take strokes off your game, log on to Seymour.com. That's SEEMORE.com and put a Seymour Putter in your bag today.
Like Joe said, check out the rifle scope technology that helped win 2 majors and 35 tour events so far, and it will help you make more putts too. Check them out online at Seymour.com, and again, SEEMORE.com. I want to kick off the show like we do every single week here on Next on the Tee by saluting the brave men and women serving in our military. We want to thank all of you for your daily sacrifices and for what you do to keep the rest of us safe. We also want to thank our veterans for all you've done for us over the years. We truly appreciate what you do and what you did to preserve our freedoms and our liberties. It's through your strength and your efforts that our way of life is even possible. Our sincere thanks as well to Sean Cruz and all the wonderful folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. It's an honor for us to have our show be a part of your network. You can find us by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. And I also want to let our veterans know, be sure to check out globalvoiceforveterans.org. It's a great site with news and articles and a wealth of information designed specifically for veterans that I'm sure you're going to find both interesting and beneficial. Check it out online. Again, globalvoiceforveterans.org. I also want to thank everyone listening in on iHeartRadio, as well as great radio sites across the internet like Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, Player.fm, and Blog Talk Radio as well. Plus, if someone's dragging you to the mall or out to the grocery store, you're just tired of the same old on your commute, download the Player.fm or Stitcher app on your smartphone and take us with you everywhere you go. Let us give you something fun to focus on while you're out and about. All right, now joining me on the Seymour Putters guest line is Dave Harner. Let me give you some background on Dave. He is the Director of Golf Operations, like I said in the intro, at one of the most beautiful facilities you're going to find anywhere on the planet, the French Lick Resort, the site of this year's Senior PGA Championship, and like I say, the LPGA Legends as well. Folks, if you're not familiar with this facility, you really need to go online and check it out while we're talking to Dave. Go to FrenchLick.com/golf. Absolutely spectacular. Again, 3 courses, one each designed by Donald Ross, Pete Dye, and Tom Bendelow. When I was doing the research, like I said in the intro, when I was doing the research last year, when I was privileged enough to have Dave join me for the first time, I immediately added the French Lick Resort to my bucket list. Dave was named the 2012 Indiana PGA Professional of the Year. He has been named the Indiana PGA Resort Merchandiser of the Year 3 times, and I am excited to have him back and next on the team with me again this morning. Hey, Dave, thanks for joining me. How are you?
Well, I'm excited to be here, but right now I'm on the Seymour Putters website checking out which one I want to get.
There you go, my friend. Do our friends a solid, right? Take a look. I'll tell you, I put one in my bag, Dave, when we first started talking to those guys. First 3 balls I put down on the ground down on the green from about 10 feet away. All 3 went in. I said, fellas, I'm sold. Got to have one. And now we've got
that would do it for most anyone, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. So, Dave, like I've said throughout the kickoff of the show, the Senior PGA Championship is being held up there at your site in just a couple of weeks, the week of May 18th. And for our listeners on the Armed Forces Radio Network, you guys are doing a great promotion for members of the military and their families. Please share what you guys are going to do for them.
Well, there's going to be free tickets for all military, active and retired. If you have a veteran's card, you just merely present it at our ticket gate, and you and your family be admitted free. And it's our way of saying thank you for looking out for us out there in the world.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Like I say, here on the Armed Forces Radio Network, we're so honored to be a part of what's going on with the Armed Forces, and the fact that you guys are reaching out to them and giving away free tickets not only to, as you say, to active military, but to veterans and their families as well. That's absolutely wonderful. Kudos to you guys for doing that.
Well, thank you very much. We're proud to be a part of that promotion, and hope everyone can make it out. It's a great opportunity to see some championship golf right here in Southern Indiana, and feel a part of the event.
Yes, and for those that do end up taking part, please do us a favor here on Next on the Tee. Take some pictures, show it to us on our Facebook page, Next on the Tee. You can find us on Facebook, and then you can find me online at CT Mascaro. Post some pictures from out and about on the course. We'd love to see those, retweet those, and give you guys a shout out. So I look forward to hearing more about it and seeing some pictures online. Again, kudos to you guys for doing such a wonderful thing for the members of our military and our veterans. Dave, people may not know, but the Donald Ross course on the property dates back to 1917. It was the site of the 1924 PGA Championship that was won by Walter Hagen, the first of Hagen's 4 consecutive PGA Championships, which was a match play event back then. But talk a little bit about the history of the course and the renovation that course went through back in 2006.
Well, the hotel owner at that time, Tom Taggart, in about 1915, wanted to add golf and wanted to add a championship course. We already had an 18-hole course down near the resort, not a championship caliber course, and he traveled often to Pinehurst and sort of became acquainted with the work that Ross did. So we were able to track back and find a check written to Ross in 1915 as a retainer to come build the golf course. And the story goes that Ross and the hotel owner actually mounted up on horseback and rode through the country to find a piece of property that Ross thought he could build a unique design, emulate the Scottish playing condition, and they were able to find that property about 3 miles from the main resort, and they were able to buy 300 acres from a farmer there. You know, in those days, you had to buy land to build a golf course on. You couldn't move dirt. You couldn't do things like you do now. So they found this piece of land that they didn't have to really move around a lot, and built a great golf course. And 7 years after it opened, the 24 PGA was played there, and you know, Hagen came away with the win. I think he won 2 up over James Barnes on the 18th hole.
Wow, that's fantastic.
But in that field, you know, Gene Sarazen was in that field, Bill Melhorn, some great early players.
Right. The senior PGA this year is being played on the Pete Dye course there. It's a par 72 measuring 7,147 yards. The second hole is something that, you know, captivated me, you know, and it's one that you guys feature a lot on the website. But it's a par 4, 429 yards, and it's such a beautiful golf hole. It's you know, so picturesque. When you stand on that tee box, that's got to be a big wow factor for the golf course. Is that right?
Well, you got from that tee, you've got a 360-degree view of the horizon, and you can see in some directions 30 to 40 miles, and on a clear day maybe farther. And it's breathtaking to be up there. And, you know, especially in the early morning, you know, that whole course is above the fog line. And, you know, it looks like the sea out there, you know, as the fog begins to lift. And it's just really a unique piece of property.
Yeah, the course is one of the highest elevations in the state of Indiana, right? About 1,000 feet above sea level. So what this suggests to me is not only do you get incredible views when you're out there, you've got a lot of elevation changes, like number 9, right? Par 5, 566 yards, but about 300 yards off the tee, the elevation drops 100 feet and makes a 90-degree right turn. So that's not only got to be a tricky tee shot, but a tricky second shot and a picturesque view.
You know, the thing about that hole is number one is you don't see that elevation change so much off the tee. And then when you get out there, you know, if you have a drive that gets you in position, you've got a big decision to make as to whether you want to try to cut the corner, reach the green in 2, because there is a severe drop from the fairway, and there's a severe drop from greenside to the bottom of the valley. So, you know, if you don't get it there, you've got something pretty awkward to deal with on your approach.
Yeah, when I read about the course, you know, you guys went back to sort of the native fescue grasses like we saw last year at Pinehurst, which is another Donald Ross design. How has that, you know, change in I guess design worked out?
Well, over time on the Donald Ross, you know, we had lost a lot of the characteristics that Ross brought to all of his golf courses. Over time, 30 or 40 bunkers had been eliminated. All the tall fescues and waste areas had been mown down and maintained at rough height. The greens with mechanical mowing, you know, and the round patterns or the round cleanup laps, they'd begin to shrink, and we'd lost the edges. So in the renovation, those were some of the things we concentrated on to bring those greens complexes back out to their original square or rectangular shapes, to reshape the approaches to match those green complexes, and to reopen a lot of those bunkers that we felt, although with today's technology may not be in play, they frame the hole nicely. You know, Donald Ross is known to tell you at the tee where you needed to hit the ball. If you had a short bunker on the left and a long bunker on the right, he wanted you to hit the ball left side of the fairway. And you'll see those characteristics now in the golf course that you didn't see before. And the native fescues, of course, make the golf course more difficult. A lot of them shouldn't be in play, but I find that they wind up being in play.
I'm sure they are. When I was reading the history of the Dye course, the story goes that when Pete Dye originally met with the resort owners and walked the site where the golf course was going to be built, he concluded there was no way to build a golf course on that land. The slopes were too severe, the terrain was too rugged. Do you know what ended up finally changing his mind and putting the course in?
Well, you know, he got a hold of an old topo map from back in the 40s or 50s, and I think he got looking at this thing, and he saw a lot of elevated points on that map. And so he was able to go out, take this map and find 36 points that were higher than the horizon or higher than the surrounding terrain. So he came back with that map, and we walked all 36 of those points, and we went back to a little restaurant for lunch over here in town, and he pulled a napkin out of the napkin holder, and he took his pen, and he drew the golf course, and he handed it to me, and he said, "There's your golf course." And it's funny because I hauled the napkin around in my car for a couple of weeks and didn't really think of the significance of that napkin. Of course, it finally dawned. I'm a little slow sometimes, and it finally dawned on me that I needed to probably keep that and get it framed, and now it's on display in our golf shop. But that's really the only architect's drawing of the golf course.
Is that right?
Yeah, and Pete's comment after he drew it was, tell your people that I'm going to build this course whether you want me to or not.
Wow.
And another thing that Pete always speaks of is, I told him when I first went there that a golf course couldn't be built there, and he said 3 years later I almost proved it.
That's great. Dave, I was sort of going hole by hole over the layout, and there aren't a lot of, what there isn't a lot of are trees, so it's pretty wide open from that standpoint. So the course seems very similar to me to Augusta National in that, there are a lot of elevation changes throughout the golf course. It would appear to me to be a second shot course, so you have to know the right angles and the approaches to the green and where on the green you have to hit it. Is that an accurate comparison and assumption?
Well, I think the key to the golf course is keep the ball in play, keep it in front of you. The contours and the elevations are not that severe in the fairways. In fact, I think Pete said there's only, a couple of holes that have more than 10 or 12 feet of elevation change. And but it's the tightest golf course you'll ever play that doesn't have a tree on it because of the way the fairway edges drop off. Like we talked about number 9 here a few minutes ago, a 100-foot drop. If you get it off the fairway, I've seen people in competition. We've hosted the Big Ten championships there 3 times. We've hosted the Legends there. This will be our 3rd year. We've hosted the Indiana Open, and I've seen people, 300 yards from the green on the par 5 with the ball 3 feet above their feet. And
wow,
that's just not a good situation. But I think keeping the ball in play, the greens are small. Pete built this golf course futuristically. He says that if the ball and the equipment keeps improving, that you'll need that 8,100 yard back tee someday. And he wanted to build us a golf course that wouldn't be obsolete in 10 years. So the greens are small, 4,000 to 5,000 square feet with a couple of exceptions. There's a lot of bailout area around them if you missed it right, left, or long, sort of like the Donald Ross course. If you miss right, left, or long, it's a tough up and down. So there's a lot of little challenges. I think the accurate iron player, the person that can hit high shots, low shots, the wind conditions up there are a big factor. That's going to be the person that takes home the trophy in May.
No, God forbid we ever need to have golf courses play 8,100 yards. I'm not sure what kind of game that would be.
I saw a couple of guys tee off from the gold tees up there yesterday, and by the 3rd hole they were up on the white. So.
Yeah, with the golf, where we're at today, the thought of trying to play 8,100 yards, that would just beat you to death. You'd be swinging, God knows how many times if you tried to actually play from that distance. Yeah, it would be a game that's not that much fun, I would imagine.
There are two,
Dave, one of the great
275-yard carry to the front edge of the fairway from some of those tees.
Oof, yeah, I might as well drop the ball on the other side. One of the great stories and the great strategies that I love, Dave, from this year's Masters was how Jordan Spieth sought out Ben Crenshaw's caddy Carl Jackson for advice on how to play Augusta National. Have you had any of the players from the Senior Tour or the Champions Tour or the LPGA Legends come out, seek you out to kind of get similar type of advice?
Well, we talk. I'm sure they, in Crenshaw's, in that example, I guess that's maybe why Spieth putted so well, because Crenshaw was a great putter, and I'm sure that caddy knew every putt on that golf course. So I'm sure he stressed to Spieth how important it was that he do a good job on the greens. And they do talk to me. They're always very appreciative of the advice I give them. I hope it's good advice. I had the opportunity to fly from Atlanta a couple of weeks ago with Colin Montgomery from the Gwinnett up to our media day, and we talked a lot about the golf course. And when he came back in, he said, "I found it to be what you said." And Montgomery's a great iron player, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him do well.
On the resort property, and you sort of alluded to this a little bit ago, Dave, you have the turn-of-the-century home of Thomas Taggart. For history buffs may recall, was the mayor of Indianapolis, and at one time the chairman of the Democratic Party. Is that just a historical site, or will that play a part in the festivities during tournament week?
It's going to be a central, sort of a focal point of the event. Our most of our activation from our sponsors will be up around that Thomas Taggart mansion, the public concession, the KitchenAid kitchen displays, Mercedes-Benz, the KitchenAid VIP area. That'll all be up around that mansion built in 1929. The real lore behind that mansion is Mr. Taggart built that as a weekend house, but wound up hosting some very high-profile political events. He was chairman of the National Democratic Party, and he was a senator from Indiana and later mayor of Indianapolis. And supposedly in 1931 at the National Governors Conference, Franklin Roosevelt was convinced to run for president the first time in that house. And the PGA headquarters will be right there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we've talked a little bit about this already, but you've got the LPGA Legends Championship being played on that course later this year with some of the biggest names in the history of the LPGA, by the way, taking part. You got Joanne Carner and Nancy Lopez, Pat Bradley, my favorite, Beth Daniel, Betsy King, Donna Capone, Patty Sheehan. I mean, the list goes on and on of the greats of all time on the LPGA tour. Talk about having those folks out there. As you mentioned, this will be the third year that you're hosting that event.
Well, it's our third year, and I want to give you a couple of more names that you can throw in the mix. One being a lady who is right on the leaderboard this week in the regular LPGA Tour, and that's Julie Inkster.
Right.
She's committed to be here in August, and Pat Hurst. So, add those to the names that we already have, and it's going to be a pretty special event. Those ladies are great to work with, very approachable. They love interaction with the crowds. There's no gallery ropes. It's just a really good event, and it's really their championship. It's their biggest purse on tour and their biggest field on tour.
So no gallery ropes? What is that? How much additional access do you have to these great players than you wouldn't have in say a normal event or a regular event?
Well, of course we ask the player that they stay out of the fairways, but
sure.
It's not unusual to see a player walk over and interact with the crowd during the competition. A couple of years ago, Laura Davies, I remember seeing her coming down number 18 and not being over in the fairway, but being over in the crowd, in the gallery that followed her and talking with some kids. So they're really inspirational in that way. Nancy Lopez, of course, is always great. I saw Nancy a couple of years ago stand out in the rain and sign probably 100 autographs. So that's what you get with those ladies. They really get it.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
They're happy to have a place to play, and I was so happy to see the Symetra Tour / Legends Tour event in Fort Myers a couple of weeks ago get so much good publicity. I think that the Legends really added to that event.
Dave, for people coming to the resort, whether it's to attend the Senior PGA, the LPGA Legends, or like I say, my three buddies and I who are planning our annual Guys Golf Trip, what do you want people to know and what they can expect when they come to the French Lick Resort?
I think we want to make everybody feel really at home. I think, I talk to people all the time who come from Chicago or from St. Louis or from a metropolitan area, and they come there, and it's the hospitality is second to none. Southern Indiana is pretty known for good, friendly people, and I think the golf course, we want you to feel like it's your club, that it's your home course, and we just do everything we can to make that happen. I think people here are really in tune with how they can make the experience special and make memories. So that's what we do.
That's fantastic. Dave, how can our listeners get more information about the resort, plus follow you and the resort over social media?
Well, of course, the best spot for information is at www.frenchlick.com. And then the Senior PGA Championship is www.srpga.com. All the latest updates and field names and how to get tickets and how to be involved are all on that website. And then, as far as the social media, we have, of course, our French Lick Resort Twitter and Facebook accounts, and then French Lick Resort Golf actually has a separate Facebook account, so you'll be able to get on there. And the great thing about the French Lick Resort Golf site is that we have thousands of pictures. You'll be able to really see the golf course like you're there, and also see some of the events and pictures from the events, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
That's great stuff. Dave, again, for our military personnel and their families, go to pga.com/senior PGA and spell out senior, SENIOR. So pga.com/senior PGA to get more information about how to get your free tickets to this great event. Dave, it has been an absolute privilege to have you back on the show with me again this morning. I hope you'll come back after the tournament, because I'd love to hear stories about how it went and your experiences and all that sort of thing, because obviously the resort's fantastic, and the event, the Senior PGA, is going to be a wonderful event. But I'm looking forward to hearing about all your stories and experiences from it.
Well, we look forward to having that story to tell. And one other thing I wanted to say is, I can get French Lick off your bucket list very easily. And you don't have to go to the website. You don't have to go to the website to get that information. You know who to call.
All right, very good. Dave, thank you so much for taking time out of your morning. Please give my best to Kim and everyone at the French Lick Resort. I look forward to catching up with you, hopefully here in the next few weeks, and hear all about it.
We'll talk soon. Thank you.
All right, take care, Dave. Dave Harner, let me tell you, I'm serious with you folks. If you haven't looked at it yet, and you're out and about and you're listening to the show, and you haven't had a chance to go to FrenchLick.com, do yourself a favor. Give yourself a reminder. Go back home, either Google it or look at that site, because those 3 courses are absolutely amazing, and I'm serious. Definitely on my bucket list. Got to get there and get to enjoy, like I say, both the Donald Ross and the Pete Dye course for sure are absolutely spectacular. All right, now joining me on the Seymour Putters guest line is Sports One Marketing CEO and best-selling author David Meltzer. Dave's book, Connected to Goodness, Manifest Everything You Desire in Business and in Life, is flying out of Amazon's warehouses and off shelves across bookstores across the country. He is positively impacting people's lives all over the world through his company, Sports One Marketing, and his partnership with NFL Hall of Famer Warren Moon. And I am not sure there is a person whose schedule is more jam-packed than Dave, so I'm very glad to have him next on the team with me again this morning. Dave, how are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's so nice to hear your voice, buddy, and glad to be on the show.
Glad to have you. And Dave, I wanted to start out this morning getting your thoughts first about the passing of a guy who's probably underrated in PGA Tour history, and that's Calvin Peete. I had a great deal of respect for his game and for what he was able to achieve with a broken arm that was improperly set, that affected the mobility of that arm. He didn't let that stop him. He was always one of the most accurate drivers on tour. He had 12 wins out there, a Varden Trophy winner for low scoring average back in 1984. Just kind of wanted to get your thoughts and what you how you feel about the loss of one of the legends of the tour.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's so significant, both to Warren and I. Obviously, Warren being the first black quarterback into the Hall of Fame, both Canadian and U.S. Pro Football Hall of Fame. Calvin Peete was the most successful African-American golfer before Tiger Woods. Unfortunately, he died of lung cancer, grew up really poor. He changed the face of golf along with Lee Elder, who was the first African-American to play in the Masters, facing death threats in a variety of different racist and discriminatory practices that were unfortunate in our country at the time. And people I don't think realize, I've surrounded myself with these circumstances for so long, what these people that challenge the true beliefs of our society in order to make changes for the future generations, guys like Tiger Woods, that not only are accepted as golfers, but elevated and rejoiced still is the most popular golfer in the world, as we saw at the Masters, regardless of whether they win or not. But the most significant thing about Calvin Peete, for everyone, no matter what color we are, what race, religion, or what our beliefs are, is that Calvin Peete, who grew up extremely poor, didn't start playing golf until he was 23 years old. And I talk about this in my book, and I talk about this on my speaking tour, is that we limit ourselves so many times with these societal regulations and beliefs that we can't do whatever we desire. And as you know, the subtitle of my book is Manifest Everything You Desire in Life and Business. And, I meet people 50 years old that come up to me and say, "Oh, Dave, you're throwing the first pitch out at the Angel game on Tuesday. You have my dream job. I can't believe, I wish I was, I'm sitting here as a lawyer or an accountant. I wish I worked in sports." And I think to myself, why don't you? Right? If Calvin Peete at the age of 23, imagine at 23 waking up in the morning and saying, "Geez, you know what? I want to be a professional golfer." And not only did he become a professional golfer, but he was on the top 10 list for 20 weeks. The man won 12 PGA Tour events. That's more than just a golfer. And so I utilize Calvin Peete as an icon for everyone out there, no matter what age you are, to wake up in the morning and decide what you want to manifest for yourself and go out and imagine it, become inspired, and then take the appropriate action, work hard, have the right discipline, strategy, and understanding, and you can do whatever you desire. So thank you so much for bringing up Calvin Peete, and he will be missed, but I think he'll be remembered more than he will be missed.
There you go. Dave, let's also talk a minute about the WGC Match Play tournament that's going on. What do you think about this year's setup? They went away from seeds and now we're into player pools. What do you think about that shift in the tournament setup?
I think with the breadth of the field, we have this trend where we have new winners every week, and we have these young stars. We have the Jordan Spieths and the Fowlers and, all these great young talents. And then we have the older guys that show up all the time, the Mickelsons, Woods, and all just so many great golfers that I think it's great for TV interest and for the game to keep as many of these players in, even if they have a bad round. And as you know, from the regular tour, that one bad round doesn't mean that you're not going to win the tournament. So I think they've kind of aligned themselves with that idea that this is golf and everybody can't shoot a 66 every day. And so that with the pool play, it gives more players a chance to win, keeps more interest into the WGC, and I think it's a really, really brilliant move.
Paul Casey is a guy who has rejuvenated his game so far this year. He's playing well in the WGC. Jim Furyk also continuing his strong play this year. Lee Westwood has come on. Gary Woodland has had nice 3 surprising wins, if you ask me, over Jimmy Walker, Ian Poulter, and Webb Simpson. McIlroy and Fowler are playing strong, as you would imagine. Who do you like to come out of this tournament as the winner?
I like Rory. I just think he's still talent-wise maybe the best golfer, and I think when he's on, like it looks like he is, that he'll have that subtlety of success, and he has a mental focus, this balance and confidence that most of the players don't have. When push comes to shove, as you've seen ever since the blow-up at Augusta the first time, he's really shown that he can handle the pressure, and when it comes down to it in match play, that's what it's about. We all know that Tiger Woods is the greatest match play player of all time. If you look in the collegiate record book as well as the PGA Tour, he's an amazing match play, and I think Rory has that same, excuse the pun, eye of the tiger, and my money would be on Rory.
All right.
Although most of my money's on Mayweather tonight, so if I have a little bit left, I have a little bit left. Exactly. Yeah, I'm going over to the fight after my son's T-ball game, and I think it'll be quite a spectacle, and I'll wait for the rematch, though. You heard it here first. I'm sure everyone realizes this is a great setup for a $200 million purse for a rematch, no matter who wins.
Right. Dave, as I said in your intro, you're one of the busiest men on the planet. You're always flying here and there. You've got a lot of events you guys are a part of and doing, and you do so many good things for charities out there. Talk about some of the things that you're currently working on, and then where some of our listeners might be able to run into you and have an opportunity to meet you, plus maybe get their copy of Connected to Goodness signed.
Absolutely. We're focused a lot on golf right now. We have the Irvine Public School Foundation Golf Tournament, which takes place at Strawberry Farms on June 4th. We have 18 or more of the biggest names and celebrities that are there. So you have Marshall Falk and John Randall and Warren Moon, just to name a few of these guys. We got Grant Furyk. So all the different sports are represented. We're going to have and raise money for scholarships that Crescent Moon Foundation, Warren's Foundation, gives to these kids in Irvine, which is our backyard. So it's really important to us. And then just personally, today's a huge, exciting day. We're launching the Meltzer Mission at meltzermission.com. We have a 30-day gratitude challenge to change your life simply by saying thank you or thinking thank you before you go to bed and when you wake up. And it's a simple thing to do. Got to do it 30 days. We have a nice chart there to help you facilitate making positive changes in your life. It's been really exciting. Obviously, the book is still going well, as you've so graciously supported over the last few months, and I certainly appreciate that. But go to meltzermission.com, sign up for the 30-day gratitude challenge, come out and support our backyard, this Irvine Public School Foundation golf tournament, and anything we can do for you, just contact us at sportsonemarketing.com. And, Chris, we love this show. We love you. Anything we can do for you, please let me know.
I appreciate that, Dave, very much. Once again, the book is Connected to Goodness. You can find it online at connectedtogoodness.com as well as on amazon.com. Dave, thank you for joining me this morning. I always look forward to the opportunity to talk with you, and we get to do it every week on the football side on our sister show, Thursday Night Tailgate, and I look forward to doing it again here next month on Next on the Tee.
Anytime, anywhere. You are the best. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right, you do the same, Dave. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks. Take care.
You too. Dave Meltzer, again, Connected to Goodness. That book is absolutely fantastic, folks. So you hear me talk about it all the time on Thursday Night Tailgate. It's a book that you're going to refer back to time and time again over the course of your life. It's not just one that you read once and put down. So many great principles to learn from on there. So, again, check it out. Connected to Goodness. You can find it on amazon.com and on connectedtogoodness.com as well. All right, now back with me on the Seymour Putters guest line is one of my all-time favorite guests on any show, and that's PGA Tour pro Paul Stankowski. Let me remind you a little bit about Paul's background. He's from Oxnard, California, started playing golf at the age of 8. He attended the University of Texas at El Paso, where he was a 3-time All-American and won the Western Athletic Conference Championship in 1990. Turned pro in 91. His first pro victory came on what's now the Nationwide Tour, was the Nike Tour back then at the 1996 Nike Louisiana Open. He backed that up by winning the very next week on the PGA Tour at the Bell South Classic, becoming the only golfer in history to win on the Nationwide Tour and then the PGA Tour in back-to-back weeks. In all, Paul has 7 professional victories and 31 top 10 finishes, and I'm always excited to have him and have a lot of fun having him here with me next on the tee in the mornings. Paul, thank you so much, my friend, for being a part of the show again.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me on.
So Paul, I always like to start off because your father had a military background. How's your dad doing?
My dad's doing really good. He's recovered from his knee surgery. He's had a couple replacements on the same knee, so it's been a rough.
Wow.
Less than 2 years. Yeah, it's been kind of a nightmare scenario there for Dad, but he he's still dealing with some swelling in it, but he's got his range of motion and this final surgery I think has done the trick.
Now let's hope so. God bless him. And
yeah,
Paul,
it's been rough. It's tough to see your parents go through that kind of thing, but Dad's he's a tough old guy, and and he's always been a hard worker. That generation, he's 85 years old. I think it's the greatest, most hardworking folks on the planet. We need to take more after them. This generation I'm in right now is and behind us is kind of a nightmare.
Right. So, Paul, now now down to a third generation. I saw your son Josh is starting to play junior golf. Is he enjoying being part of the junior golf tournaments?
He loves it. It's Josh is. It took him a while to really fall in love with the game of golf. All the while when he was little, I didn't want him to play golf. I really would prefer he play baseball, which he did, starting at 5 years old and played till he was 9. And when they started going to select ball, he wasn't good enough to make select teams, and so he played rec for a couple more years, and then finally said, "Dad, I want to try golf." And he had always been around the game, obviously, and he had an amazing little golf swing as soon as he could stand. And I used to catch wiffle balls in the backyard. He would just fire his little plastic 5-wood at me. And he was automatic. I mean, it was crazy how good it was. I thought I was looking at a little Tiger Woods when he was 2, and secretly looking forward to the day I could be his agent and rake in the big bucks. But baseball kind of jacked up his golf swing a little bit, but now he's still got a really good swing. He's just learning. Josh has gone through a lot of learning issues. He was born with a thing called verbal apraxia, which is a fine motor skill that affected the pathway between the brain and the mouth, and he didn't speak until he was 4 years old, and it carried on. Even today, he still has some speech issues, which are slowly going away, but I think it carried on too from just processing aspects, and so the light switch hasn't come on yet in his golf game, although he looks the part, he dresses the part. He's got a great swing. He can hit all the shots on call. He just can't do it repetitively. So what's funny, Chris, is that I watch him play, and I'm so used to watching professionals hit the ball that I'm expecting him to hit it like a pro, and it takes me a while to realize, wait, he's 15. He's not even close to there yet. So it's a learning process for his dad, for sure, trying to figure out how to just be an encouragement to him, and I don't want to discourage him at all. So I try to be his biggest fan and cheerleader, and at the same time try and help him with the management side of the game of golf, not really the golf swing, because although I can spot a bad swing, I have no idea how to fix one.
I'm curious though. You mentioned at the beginning of that story that you didn't encourage him to play golf. You wanted him to play baseball. Why didn't you want to encourage him to play golf?
Yeah, I didn't want him to have any pressure to follow in my footsteps, and that was really it. Plus I love baseball. I love sitting in the stands and eating a hot dog and eating peanuts and watching just that our favorite pastime. And so I had dreams of playing in the major leagues when I was a kid, although I never played Little League, oddly enough. But so that's why. And but now that he loves the game, it's his dream now. It's his passion, and it's crazy enough that he wants to be like me, which is really funny. And I'm like, what retired? You want to be retired and out of shape? And he's like, Dad. So it's but he does love it. He would go to school in his white belt if I let him, but I don't let him. So I try to make him dress down on his way to school, and he can always change in the parking lot on his way to practice afterwards.
There you go. Paul, we're a couple of weeks post the Masters and a week away from the Players Championship, and I wanted to kind of talk to you about your experiences and your reflections on those two events, and I'll start at the Masters. You finished tied for 5th at the Masters in 1997, and if it wasn't for some kid named Tiger Woods who lapped the field that year, it might have been a heck of a fight to the finish in that final round between you and Tom Kite and Tom Watson and Fred Couples, Colin Montgomery, we talked a little bit about a moment ago, and Constantino Rocca, who, all finished within a couple of strokes of one another. And on Sunday, for you going out there, was there a sense, since Tiger Woods was so far ahead, that it was just a leisurely round of golf because there wasn't really any pressure to win, or was there still a battle going on for finishing in the top 5 because there's still a fair amount of money on the line at that point?
Well, for starters, the fact that you just mentioned my name amidst Tom Watson and Tom Kite and Colin Montgomery, that's a thrill. Sometimes I forget that I actually did play out there on the tour and competed at that level. So it's fun to reminisce. But as far as that last round, I was paired with Tom Kite, who was our Ryder Cup captain for that next year, and I knew that I needed to put on a good show for him on Sunday because I was on the bubble. And I was close. I think maybe even at that time I might have been, one of the last guys in the Ryder Cup standings, and or I was right on the bubble anyway. And so I knew that if I was going to finish on the outside, chances are I was going to get picked overlooked by a veteran. And it turns out I shot 2 over par, so there was a lot of pressure on me, and I guess I didn't handle the pressure well. I got off to a poor start, and I think I played the par 5s 1 over par on Sunday, which for a guy of my length back in the day, that's disastrous on that golf course. And so it was a disappointing finish for me. The exciting part is that I did get to be paired with Tom Kite. We were in the second to last group. I got to play right in front of Tiger and Costantino Rocca. And just being in the hunt and walking up 18 on Sunday, that close to that last group, to hear the applause. And I mean, I dreamt as a kid, Chris, of playing in the Masters. It was a distant dream, but when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, watching on TV on Sunday, it was a dream, and so to actually have been able to live that dream and to get really close to every boy who plays golf's dream of winning the Masters. I obviously was 18 shots behind Tiger or whatever it was, 16 shots, and but like I say, I was a few shots from finishing second, which in his words, second sucks, but I'd have taken it in a heartbeat.
So, and to that point, Paul, when you're in the next to last group and you're paired with a guy like Tom Kite, and really kind of experiencing the day and sort of experiencing, right, the formal coming out party of Tiger Woods, when we all knew who Tiger was through amateur golf and how great he was, but really, that's sort of the crowning, I guess, of, the next great player. You were in prime position to experience all of that. What was that like?
It was, I too knew who Tiger Woods was, and I'm involved with a ministry called College Golf Fellowship, so I'm pretty much in tune with what's going on in college. And so when he was, before he was in college, we knew who he was. As a Southern California native myself, I heard the whispers of this young guy that was 6 years younger than me, or 5 years, whatever it was, and then when he went to Stanford, I was well aware of what was going on there. I was good friends with Casey Martin, who was on that team, and met Casey through playing with them, and so it was fun to watch. And when Tiger obviously came out onto the tour, I predicted he was going to win 5 times and $2 million his rookie year, and I was pretty close to getting that. But he was special, and what made him special is how long he hit it. Now John Daly was also hitting it really long at that time, and but we all knew there was something a little bit different with Tiger, that he had the ability to do things that not many people back then could, and or consistently anyway. And so that was a lot of fun to be in that mix. I'm sure it was a lot of fun for those guys. I got paired with Tiger a few times, but never battled him really head to head down the stretch of any tournament. I don't think I was ever paired with him on a weekend. But I was 10-footer away in '97 to get paired with him on Sunday at the Masters. But it was fun. I mean, anytime you get to play against the best player in that sport is awesome. I don't care who it is, and you get matched head to head. It's got to be one of the coolest things as an athlete. Those people who play the tour 10 years from now that'll never get a chance to have played with Tiger, they'll be somebody else. They'll be talking like this about Rory or Jordan. And yeah, Tiger was awesome, and it's so great to see him back playing again. He actually looks he looked a lot better at the Masters this year than he did the few events leading up to that. But I hope that he can right the ship and start contending more frequently, and I think it's great for the game. Obviously his time is almost past, as is Phil. There's still a little gas in the tank for those guys, and there's no question they're going to contend for a handful of majors the rest of their career. May or may not win one, but they're going to contend, and they'll win their fair of regular tournaments. But their time is come, and it's almost gone, and the new generation of golfer is on the way, and we're seeing some great stuff from Jordan and Rory, and then there's a bunch of other guys. And I hope we don't get stuck into the same problem we found ourselves in 10 years ago when we were only talking about the big five, Ernie and BJ and Phil, Tiger, and whoever, David Duval, I guess, or Furyk, or whoever that fifth guy was. But I hope that we don't just talk always about Rory and Jordan. I hope there's other guys that emerge, and I'd love to see there's 15 guys that week in, week out are battling. And 1 week Rory's going to win, 1 week Jordan, 1 week Jimmy, 1 week Patrick, 1 week whoever. There's a 12-year-old right now that in 10 years is going to be amazing. And we don't know what his name is yet, but he's out there, and we know it. History proves it that every 10 years or so there's someone else that's coming along that's pretty special.
You mentioned getting to play with Jack a moment ago, and when you came back to the Masters in '98 and you finished tied for 39th that year, that was the year Mark O'Meara won the tournament. For all the incredible accomplishments that Mr. Nicklaus had over the course of his career, even though he didn't win in '98, at age 58 he finished tied for sixth, 2 strokes better, by the way, than Tiger Woods that year. You were tied for second after the first round that next year, and if it wasn't for a bad second round, you might have been right back in the mix there again as well. What do you remember from the '98 tournament?
I do remember to a nice start. I've done that 2 years in a row. I did that in '97 as well, and I believe that was the year that John Houston holed it. And it might have been the year before, but I believe I was paired with Freddie and Jose Maria the second round, which was also a dream pairing. Are you kidding me? I mean, that was pretty darn cool. And I played poorly, but I think I made a 25-footer on the last hole for birdie to make the cut on the number. And the cool thing is when I finished early on Sunday, I heard the roars. And I think, if I remember correctly, Jack may have eagled 8 possibly, or he birdied 8. He made a putt, and I remember hearing the roar, and that was really cool because Jack was done playing full time when I was a kid, or on the end of it, and I was a Tom Watson fan. But getting to hear the Jack Nicklaus roar at Augusta, it was amazing because I remember the '86 Open, watching it on TV, and so it's cool. I'm a golf fan. I'm not a huge historian. I don't remember a ton of past winners, and I do remember some of the Opens and some of the big events that I watched on TV. But to me, I was a big picture guy. I just took it all in, but obviously getting to watch Jack play. I got paired with Jack one time in a skins game at the Memorial with him and Watson and Gary Player. So the 4 of us are playing a 9-hole skins game. That was I wish there was video. I mean, come on, man. Why couldn't cell phones have been invented back then? And I could have had those guys and beaten them. I won more skins than they did, so that was pretty cool. But
is that right?
But that Sunday, that was. And Jack kind of on the 9th hole, I think I'd won 7 skins in 9 holes, and he on 9, Gary Player's hitting the ball out of the bunker, and I'm trying to watch Gary hit out of the bunker because he's the best bunker player in the history of golf, And Jack comes over, he's like, Paul, the fellas, they were going to donate their winnings back to the charity, so no pressure, but just wanted to let you know. And I was like, man, I wanted to keep that check and put it on my wall. And so I donated it back into charity. I should probably bring that up one day if I wanted an exemption into Memorial, because I'm never going to qualify on my own anymore. So, but that was pretty funny, and so it's just a neat deal. But so that Sunday was special, hearing the roars, and him finishing 6th at 58 years old, probably rivals Tom Watson, losing in a playoff to Stewie at the Open Championship. Right. But pretty neat stuff for a kid who grew up watching the legend of Jack on TV.
Do you have a picture of of that foursome with you with the other 3 guys?
Nothing. I don't. I'm sure there's probably one in existence. I have nothing. I got nothing. I have no picture, no. I mean, there were thousands of people. It was on Wednesday, it was on Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday. So there were two groups. I was supposed to have been in the group in front, which was like Duval, Azinger, Tom Lehman, and I don't know, somebody else, Lee Jansen or somebody. And I was late. My flight was late, so they stuck me in the second group, and I got stuck with Watson Player and Nicklaus. But no, I'm sure there's a picture around somewhere. I just never got one, and that's the thing. When I was playing, I thought it was going to last forever, and I never. I don't know. I wish I had stopped a little bit more to smell the roses along the way, because as long as I played out there, it seems like it was just a dream. You know, it was just a vapor, and every time I try to remember it, it just slowly vanishes. I have to look at pictures to go, oh yeah, I remember that, and I wish I had done a better job at just enjoying the moment. If I had any advice, if I could give to these young guys out there, I would say just soak it in. You know, soak it in. Things go by so fast, and life, all you're given is today, and everybody on that tour is one injury away from retirement, and that's a scary thing. But when you're in the moment, you feel invincible. You think it's going to last forever, and you just kind of live day to day. And I'm sure I can find a photo somewhere. There's got to be an archive out there, or even a video clip. And I had a 3-footer for eagle. I forget even what hole it is. A par 5 on the front 9, probably 5, or I think it's 5. And a really cool hole with a creek left of the green. And I hit a 3-wood in there, 3 feet. And I've got this eagle putt, and they're all standing right around me and right around the hole, just dogging me. Like, come on, rookie, come on, kid. And I made it. I was so nervous, man. My hands were shaking. I couldn't even get the ball in the hole when I made it. But I wish there's got to be a picture of that somewhere. That'd be amazing. But I was so out of place there, but it was such a cool feeling.
What was the year again?
It was 97. Yeah, it was the year it was my career, my year, my good year in all of them. But right. 97.
If anyone's got a picture of the 1997 Skins game at the Memorial, please shoot it to Paul. Find him on Facebook or over on Twitter. Got to get that picture. That's now a mission. That's on my list of things to do, is find a picture from that event. We'll find it for you, Paul.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
So we got just a couple of minutes left, and I want to get a couple of other things in with you. At the 2004 Players Championship, you made a heck of a charge in the third round. You carded a 6-under par 66. You birdied the last 4 holes in that round. Take us through what it was like playing at that Players Championship and on the TPC Sawgrass.
Well, first of all, I love TPC Sawgrass, and I haven't played it since they moved it a little later in the year, but I love playing golf on overseeded Bermuda, so we're rye overseeds, and it just to me it looks amazing. It's so green and rich and lush, and that tournament's I call it our 5th major, because it's our tournament, it's our major, right. and the field there is amazing. Everybody's there. I don't remember a whole lot from the round. I do remember I almost made an ace on 17. I don't know how it didn't go in, but it ended up like an inch away. And
wow.
I remember playing. I think I played with Greg Norman that week. It might have even been on Sunday, and I didn't have a good Sunday. But no, I mean that I love the finishing holes there. 16, 17, 18. There's so much that can happen, so much drama. It's fun to watch on TV, let alone get to play in it. And 15's an amazing. It's a difficult par 4, and 16's a par 5 that you can make 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on it, which is cool. 17 obviously is the nightmare. Anything can happen there, and 18, that tee shot. As a guy who cuts the ball, there's 2 tee shots on the PGA Tour that really got my attention and also really got my juices flowing. That was 18 at Sawgrass and 18 at Pebble. Because as a cutter, I've got to start the ball over the water in order to have a shot. I could not hit a draw to save my life back in the day, and draws only happened on accident. And so obviously on that tee, I'm hoping I didn't have an accident. So it was always fun to just pick a great spot, whether it was a red stake along the water's edge, or a part of the grandstand up by the green that I could start it at and cut it over. And the left pin there on Sunday, back left pin, or even the front left pin, if I wanted to fire at the pin, I've got to start it, a little bit left of the hole and trust that my ball is going to cut. And I love those moments. It's great to be able to step up there and hit a shot, knowing that evil lurks, disaster lurks. If you just get a little bit more quiet with your lower body, it's not going to cut. And so it's always fun to step up on those holes when I had the courage to do so, which I didn't have it all the time. But and to aim it out there and trust it, it was fun. And obviously, birdieing the last 4 holes there that day put me in a really good spot to have a chance to win an event that obviously is it's a special event on the PGA Tour. And I folded like a cheap shirt on Sunday, but it was fun.
You talk about the 17th. I had Donnie Hammond on the show with me last week, and he's a guy who played his college golf at Jacksonville University. And we were talking about the 17th hole on the Island Green, and I asked him, if, due to the circumstances, right, the tournament play and the situation, is that the most stressful tee shot in golf? And he said, even though it's only a 9-iron shot, sometimes even down to a wedge, because of the tournament pressure and the wind conditions, it really can be one of the most stressful tee shots in golf. Do you feel, I'm a guy, you hit it an inch away. Do you feel additional stress? Playing a tournament in the tour is stressful enough, but do you feel a little added when you're walking up to the 17th tee?
Yeah, the walk is the worst part, because it's a long walk from 16 green to 17 tee, and you're walking through all the people, and they're all cheering for you, and you've already, when you're on your second shot on 16, you're looking at 17 green. It's like you're playing 16, and then you're walking. But then once you get on the tee box, the biggest obstacle guys have to get over or get past on the PGA Tour is their own thoughts. And if we can take our thoughts and focus on exactly what we want to happen in this moment, then we're not thinking about what could happen, right? What might happen if, or the dreaded water or whatever. So on that hole, you're really focused. I don't care what pin it is. You should be looking in the exact same spot, dead center of the green. If the pin's in the back, you're trying to land it just on top of the ridge. If the pin's in the front, you're trying to land it just short of the ridge. But there's probably a 10-foot circle that you're trying to land it on for any pin on that hole, and which makes it a simple shot. Obviously, where fear creeps in is obviously being afraid of hitting in the water. But, most people, if it's calm, can hit a pitching wedge or a 9-iron on that green without blinking if they're aiming directly in the center of the green and hitting a confident shot. But fear creeps in, and that's the thing that sometimes the best players in the world have the ability to take fear and eliminate it by just focusing on where they want the ball to go. And it's as simple as that. It's not easy at all, but it's simple. You've got to you can't focus on two things at one time, period. I can't think of an apple and an orange perfectly clearly at the same time, right? You can't.
Right.
So you can see them both, but they're both blurry. And so if you're focused on, oh crap, I could hit this in the water and make a triple, or I could do what Len Batiste did, and that's tragic, and it's going to probably end poorly for you. And if it doesn't there, it's probably going to end on the 18th hole. So you've got to just dial in and focus on where you want the ball to go on that hole, just like every shot. Honestly, there's more trouble that lurks there, but you have a 9-iron. Now, when the wind's blowing and it's downwind or dead into the wind, it's tough because it's added pressure and added distraction. But, you play your whole life on the PGA Tour trying to limit your mistakes. And the best way to do so is to focus on where I want this ball to go. And the more you focus on that and dial into a small target, a definitive thought, then the distractions kind of blur away. But that's why the walk was always troubling, because I didn't know how far I was, so I couldn't focus on what club to hit or how I was hitting it until I got a number. That's the whole process for me. Is once that yardage book comes out, and I start adding up my yardages, I start looking at the wind, calculating what it's going to do, calculating what the green's going to do. Is it soft? Is it going to spin? Where I want this ball to land based on all those things. If I'm thinking about that whole process, Chris, figure out, okay, exactly what shot and how far I need to hit this club. Once I've done that, if I've done that properly, I've forgotten about all the elements. I've forgotten about the people and the situation at hand. But if you get up there and you're just looking and you're going, oh my gosh, that green is, and it starts all of a sudden getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and your palms get sweaty, and it's tough. So that's why you've got to focus on what is in front of you. What do I have? How far do I have? What do I have to that crest? Okay, the wind's helping 5 yards. So if I got 138 to the crest and it's helping 5 yards, it's 133. All right, it's playing 133. That's a pitching wedge. And then I look, okay, I got to aim at 8 feet right of the pin because the wind's blowing 15 miles an hour off the right. It's going to hold. I'm looking at all those things. And the more you can focus on what you need to do, you're not thinking about the people. So it sounds really easy coming out of my mouth right now, but it's really difficult when you're in the mix and there's 15,000 people around that green staring at you, the red lights on the camera, Gary McCord chuckling and giggling because he knows you're nervous and the whole deal. So it's fun, man. I love looking back at it because I hated that moment, man. I'm a kind of guy that I just wanted to go play and try to enjoy the moment. But when the moment got really crazy and nervy, I just hated it. I wanted it over. I was able to focus and do the things I needed to do. I don't think I didn't hit too many shots during my career when I wasn't clear. I did a very good job at coming up with a clear picture and a period or an exclamation point at the end of my thought. There was very little question marks or dots. I needed to put a period on it to wrap up my thought and the idea and hit it. But it was that whole thing. I just got I didn't like. It wore me out. At the end of the day, I would sit on my bed and I would sink in and go get comatose back in the hotel room watching SportsCenter 19 times.
That's a great story. Paul, one last one before we let you go. I'd be remiss with, you're a big Cowboys fan. We got the NFL draft going on. So how do you feel about, who the Cowboys have drafted and as we look forward to the 4th, 5th, and 6th round?
Well, I'm excited. Obviously, the Cowboys last year looked like a team on a mission, and they looked a lot better. And, Tony, I think, has been a great quarterback for a long time, and he's completely he gets dogged all the time for not winning. But they had a pretty crappy program. They had, the team wasn't very good for a long time, and without Tony, they would have been horrible. DeMarco Murray last year was phenomenal, but the big thing was the offensive line. I think you and I probably could have rushed for 1,000 yards behind that line last year. Those guys are great, and as a Cowboys fan, looking at those teams of the 90s, they had a great offensive line, and so finally it was great the last 5 years to start seeing Jerry and his management start drafting smartly. And they built a great offensive line. I love seeing the defensive help that they got here early in the first, second, third round, and even kind of potentially shoring up maybe a little bit of a fail-safe on the offensive line. Just kind of, you never know, injuries happen in a heartbeat, so it's kind of nice to have a little bit of depth. So
right.
I love it. We've obviously lacked on the defensive side of the ball. We have a hard time stopping the pass and outside linebacker. There's things that need to be done. But the bottom line is, I don't care what the names are on the back of that jersey. These guys have got to buy into the system and they got to perform. And Nick Saban is I'm a huge Nick Saban fan, mainly because of the type of coach he is. I don't know what kind of person he is. I've never met the guy. And people, if you're from LSU, you hate him. If you're from Tennessee, you hate him. If you're from any other school in the SEC, you hate him. If you're Alabama, you love him. But as a sports fan, watching him work, he gets every one of those kids on his program to buy into the fact that if they individually do their job, they will win the national championship. They will be successful if each of them do their job. It's no nonsense. You don't see a lot of stupidity coming from this team. And when it does happen, he sits their butt down. There's a lot of discipline. And so if these guys buy into a system, they're successful. And so if the Cowboys can buy into the system, whatever that is, and as far as Jason Garrett, if they can keep stacking good plays on top of good plays on top of good plays, in this football team, it's a football game, it's a football program. They can put good football plays. They're going to have a good football season. So if they do that, it's great. It is very simple. Just like we talk about in golf, if the focus is on what you want to do and execution, the results will happen. And so the Dallas Cowboys, they have got themselves in a great spot. They have a good program getting better. They got a good quarterback that's healthy. Hopefully Tony's still healthy. Their offensive line, if they can stay healthy, I think whatever running back they put in there by committee, hopefully, will be successful. And if they can, the defensive end of the ball, if they can pick up a little bit more, I think it could be a really fun year for the Dallas Cowboys.
There you go. Paul, your company, Francis Edwards, sells some amazing exotic leather goods. Update us on how things are going at Francis Edwards.
We're plugging along and gaining a presence around the coast and in pro shops, and it's been a lot of fun. It's obviously, we're a small company. We're still a couple years into it, but I really I'm enjoying the relationships that we've built with our clubs that are carrying our product, and I'm looking forward to a fun summer doing member guests, and it's great. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we grow, but ideally we just want to service our customer right, and love working with the clubs that we currently have on board.
Great. I'll remind our listeners how they can follow you both online and over social media.
Well, I'm at Paul Stankowski on Twitter. Our Francis Edward website is at Francis Edward _ Facebook, we're Francis Edward USA, and my cell phone number is, I'm just kidding, I won't give you that.
That's great. Paul, thank you so much for being generous with your time and coming back on the show with me again this morning. Like I've said so many times, both on this show and over social media, my dream fivesome, my father, you, Bob Friend Jr., Eric Johnson, because I think that would not only be a fantastic round of golf, but it would be so much fun to hang out with you and those guys. Something that is a dream of mine. Hopefully we get the opportunity at some point, but I thank you for being a part of the show. You're always so fantastic.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on, and we'll get that round of golf dialed in here someday soon.
All right. Take care, Paul. I look forward to catching up with you again real soon. All the best to you and your family.
Anytime, Chris. Thank you. You
All right.
too.
Take care, Paul.
Bye.
Paul Stankowski. Telling you folks, doesn't get better than Paul Stankowski. What great stories. I always love to listen to Paul tell stories. He is a fantastic storyteller. All right, folks, before we close up shop, I want to remind you about a great book from another set of our friends, Dave Stockton Jr. It's called Own Your Game. If you're starting to get your game going physically, trying to get the rust off of that sort of thing, remember, so much of the game, like Paul just said, is played between that 5-inch space between your ears. Get your mind right. And this latest book, the Stockton, lets you know how to play winning golf through the power of the mind. Own Your Game recreates the experience of riding 18 holes with Dave Stockton at one of his highly sought-after corporate outings, and draws experience from his career being a champion player both on the regular tour and the Champions Tour, plus a revered coach now. So he shows you how to think better, stay calmer, execute more consistently, and most importantly, how to enjoy the game more thoroughly. Go to StocktonGolf.com to get your copy, and like I tell you, for a couple extra dollars, he'll even autograph it for you. All right, everybody, it's time for me to put a bow on this one. My sincere thanks once again to Dave Harner, David Meltzer, and Paul Stankowski for joining me this morning and for making today's show so much fun. We thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you guys the very most. Please check out our sister show. You heard me mention it earlier, Thursday Night Tailgate with me, my co-host, Bob Lazari, and our announcer, Joe Lajanusa. That show airs live every Thursday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Blog Talk Radio. Plus, you can also catch us on the Armed Forces Radio Network. You can find us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, SoundCloud. Audio Boom now is another one that's picked up the Thursday Night Tailgate show as well. Please, every week we have great guests. We give you 5 to 7 current or former NFL or CFL players or members of the media sharing their stories. So we have a lot of fun talking football year-round on Thursday Night Tailgate. Please also check out both shows on Facebook. Give us a like. That's important to us, too. And you can find us online. This show, nextonthetee.net, and ThursdayNightTailgate.com. You can stream or download any of our archive episodes for free and keep up to date with who our future guests are going to be on both shows by going to both of those sites. All right, folks, thanks again for choosing to listen to this show. We appreciate you making that choice and being a part of the show with us. And until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.